Hello friends, Sharon from Mad Paper Crush here. Today I'm going to start planning again. So I had been doing some planning in an altered book junk journal planner, and I loved planning in it. So I loved, making my plans in here and adding flips and doing things like that. But for some reason, I just wasn't real happy with the altered book format. So the glued pages and things, I don't know, they just kind of bothered me. So I'm going to try, because I love to plan and I like having, a planner and I've stopped doing it because that bothered me. So I really wanted to get into it again. And I thought that I would try to use the book cover that I had started for my other altered book junk journal planner when I was going to make a second one. But instead of using the book block or the page block that was inside of that, I decided to just turn it into what would be, what you might think of as a regular journal. So there's all kinds of vintage pages in here, ledger pages, digital pages, other kinds of book pages, old office reports, different things like that. But I think I like the way this is going to work for me better. It opens up better. I'm more inspired by the pages when I see them, and I can add some collages and do the things that we did before in it. So I'll probably be planning very similarly as I had before, but the book is going to be very different. So in this video, we're going to actually take that book that I had started that had a regular, signature page block in it like this one, and we're going to turn it into just a simple junk journal planner. So I hope you'll join me today as we make a junk journal planner so that we can start planning again. Come on, let's go. Oh, and one more thing. If you want to see how I covered this book, because it was just like a regular book that I got in a thrift store, if you want to see how I covered this book with these fabrics, how I went about doing that, I will link to that right up here for you, so you can take a look at how I made these covers out of a regular book. All right, so let's start working on this book. Now, I like the cover, but I really don't want to use it as an altered book. So I wasn't happy with how my other one worked out. So we're going to see if we can change this up. So a lot of these steps are similar to, using a book cover for a journal. So you may have seen some of this before. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to try to be real careful here, because since I have the front covered, I don't want to, cut through any of that. I just really right now want to get the book block out. So the center pages, the pages block out. So I'm just using my craft knife here and just trying to separate it from the spine. So I'm going to do this, and you can kind of, once you start going, you can kind of see the glue in here. So I'm going to be careful with that, and then I'm going to do the front side too. I mean, it's not totally pulled apart yet, but like I said, I want to be careful that I don't cut the spine itself, because I do want to use that. So let's see if I can get this going here. And that was pretty easy. And sometimes it's good to start on one side, see if it, gives you trouble, then maybe go to the other side. And I'm just going to try to get these strings in here cut apart. Most of them are done, so I can start pulling this away. And I'm probably not using the knife in the best way here because I have it pointing up, but I really don't want to cut the spine, so I'm trying not to do that. Okay, I think all that's done, and it looks like this may be kind of glued into the back there, so I might have to do some pulling to get this apart. So before I do that, though, I'm just going to really make sure that I have it separated as best I can. And honestly, I don't know how this is going to turn out. So this was an inexpensive, like thrift store book that I just thought it had good bones, so I thought I would use it for, something. And as I'm looking here, I do think that this is glued in. The book block is glued in, or the signature block. So I'm going to see if I can maybe cut some of that apart without really tearing the spine too much, hopefully. Yep, I can feel the glue in there. All right, so I'm just going to work on this a little bit, and I'll leave the camera going so you can kind of see what I'm doing, since it's not going to be perfect here, and I'm just going to be working on pulling this away from the spine. All right, I did get it out. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but you can definitely see the glue lines here, and even feel the glue lines that are still here. And I could work to maybe pull these up, but I think instead, because I don't want a sticky spine, so when I put my signatures in, I don't think I want them sticking to the back of the spine. I just want them held in on the sides. So I think I'm going to cover this, and I'm going to just use some muslin to cover this so that you know, wait, I don't have that glue that's sticky. So actually this is pretty light. I don't think it'll go through though, since it's kind of dry. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tear myself a piece that will cover the center here, and maybe overlap each side about, I don't know, a ½ inch or so. And I'm going to use torn fabric. So I'm just going to grab my scissors and tear where I'd like this to be. And I think I'm going to have, you know, have it be a little bit above the top of my book and a little bit below, just because it'll be fun having a little bit stick out there. So we'll just tear that there and tear that there. And this should be my piece. Pull some of the strings off. So I think that'll work nicely there. And I think I'm going to use my tacky glue to put this down. And I do want to kind of try and flatten this out, because I don't want a wrinkle or a bump in there if I can help it. So when I glue that down, I'll just make sure that this, you know, gets pushed over there. So I'm going to grab my tacky glue, and I'm going to fill the entire inside all the way up to the edges. And I'm going to put that down first, and then I will glue the sides down. But I just want to make sure I have the middle all glued up here. And the inner sides. I'm going to do it this way because it's a little bit easier to see. I'm picking the side that I like the phrase on the best. So this is the top, to put at the top there. And I didn't spread this glue out, but you're not really going to see this part. So I'm okay with that drying and maybe, you know, showing there a little bit, even though I don't think it will. It shows now because we're putting the glue down, but it won't when we get it in the book. And I'm just going to grab my bone folder here and just make sure that I have this into the creases that are already there of the spine. And that's where I want it. And then once I do that, now I'm just going to glue down the sides kind of like this. So I'll do the back side first. So I'm just going to, you know, get a basic idea of how far this goes out. And I'm just going to add my glue there. And like I said, I am going to be sure that when I lay this down, I flatten out any of those bumps that are there. And this will all be covered up on the back here with paper glued down. So, you know, I know that's going to happen. So, but because that's going to happen too, I want to be sure that my bumps are all out. So you can see as I'm just laying it down here, I'm going to make sure it's nice and flat. And then I'm just going to do the other side the same way. All right, now this is the finished look, and you can see I have my little tears at the top and the bottom, and I like the way that looks. And now I'm just going to set this aside to let it dry real good before we move on here. And I'm just making sure my cover fabric is underneath this spine fabric, even though, once again, I don't think it's really going to matter because I'm going to be covering this with paper. And also the new book block with my signatures in it is going to be covering up this as well. So I'm going to set this aside and we'll start working on signatures. All right, so for signatures, I went ahead and started putting them together. You've probably seen me put signatures together a ton of times. I will link to a video on working with signatures inside of a cover, so that you can take a look at, you know, how I kind of go about putting them together. But I'll just kind of give you a run through of what I did. So since I know I'm going to be using this for my planner, I didn't worry about having too much blank space. I have a little bit, but a lot of these pages are already filled with words and different things on them. But because I'm going to be using them like a planner, so let me grab something here so I can show you. I don't know where they are. Oh, there they are. So I have some planner cards, some digital kits that are planners, or I'm just going to use leftovers to be like my lists or my, you know, day appointments or whatever. So this is going to be kind of like a bullet journal, but a little bit more artsy than a bullet journal. But the pages that I chose because I'm going to be using things on top of them. So I'm going to be gluing down papers on top so that I can you know, do my planner on them. And this is definitely like I used to plan with the altered book junk journal planner, but once again, I didn't like using the book pages that were already in the book, so I kind of wanted to create my own. So let me just kind of go through. I have a book here. I think it's Flowers of America, or no, Flowering Plants of America, I think this one is. So this one has a lot of neat pictures in it. I have some old papers from a business. I thought I'd put some dark pages in. I love to use white pen. So you could keep these available for me to use some white pens in. And then I used some, I think the flower book of the Flower Fairies of Autumn. Since I'm going to be starting this in September, I'm going to be, you know, going through the autumn in here. And then some music pages. That's kind of it for here. And I did a couple of different sizes. You can see I have September here since I'm going to start in September. And I have map cardstock there, more old business pages, music pages, some ledger pages. I did put a couple digitals in here that I had left over. This is an opportunity if you're doing something like this to grab some of those leftovers that you may have had or didn't use for something else you were working on. Yeah, Flower Fairies of the Autumn is the one that I used here. So I thought that would be nice to use for my planning through the autumn. So that's basically my signatures. There's a lot of, you know, kind of the same sorts of things throughout, which I like to do sometimes. And you can see I have 3 of them here. And I can, my spine is about, I think it's a little over an inch. It's probably closer to an inch. So this might be a little bit big. I may take out a page or two, because if I start gluing things in, you'll see I'll already start kind of getting this alligator mouth. So, and if that's, you know, you don't mind that or you like that, that is certainly, you know, something you can do. I may take out just a couple pages so that I don't get too much of that. Although this isn't too bad. It's almost exactly right just as it is. So I do think if I start gluing things in, it'll start to get big. And you can see I go back and forth because I love, I don't know, I love putting a bunch of pages in. So I will think about that for just a moment before we go ahead and create our signature block here. All right. I grabbed a scrap piece of paper here. This is a scrapbook paper that's one-sided to use as the back of my signature block here. And I pulled out, I keep templates from other journals that I've made. So this is a template that I already have made because I like to do a five-hole stitch, five-hole pamphlet stitch in my journals. So here is the template already ready for me to go. And I just when I keep them, I mark them what they are. So I have, you know, this is an 8.5 inch spine. This is the template for a 5-hole pamphlet stitch. So what I'm going to do with this back paper, it's about 3 inches wide. And once again, I said this is a scrap paper. So I wanted this to be big enough to overlap the spine on both sides. It doesn't have to be, you know, a whole lot, but I wanted it to overlap the fabric that we had put down. Okay. And actually it's going to go this way. So it's going to overlap on both sides, and it's overlapping just about an inch since we said our spine was a little bit, you know, about an inch there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this down to the right height. I'm going to leave it the width that it is, and then we're going to make our template for our holes to go throughout. So it's 8.5. The cover is 8.5, so I'm just going to cut that off so that now this should match what I have here, which it does. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a ruler and I'm just going to make some marks so that we kind of know where our signatures are going to go. And I also pulled out the matching fabric for the cover because I think I'm going to use this for the spine for the signature block as well. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on my board here. And just kind of line it up so that it's kind of matching. And what I want to do is I want to mark the center of this piece of paper so that I kind of know. So it's 3 inches wide. So I'll put my mark at 1.5 inch here. And actually what I'm going to do, because I'll probably use that for one of the signatures to go at right in the middle. So I'm going to leave that there. But then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark on the other sides where I want the signatures to go. Since my spine is just about 1 inch wide, I don't want my signatures to go over that. So I have one in the very center. That's where the holes are going to go for my center signature. And then I'm going to come out, I'm thinking like 1/4 inch might not be quite enough. Maybe I'll come out, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/8 of an inch, just to give them enough space. And actually, I think I'm going to go out a little bit even further. I'm going to put that at 1/8 of an inch in. So let me think about how this is going to work. Let me double check my spine, folks, because I don't want my signatures going over. So I'm just trying to see, I just kind of measured it, eyeballed it, and I do see that it is a little bit over an inch. It's about 1.25 inches. So I want to try to keep about 1/4 inch away from either side of the spine. So that's good information for me to know. Let me just line this up again, although I'm pretty much using this ruler here. All right, let's get back here. All right, so we have our center mark, and then since I know it's about 1.25 inch on each side, I can put this at 1, 2, 3/8 of an inch out from the center on either side. So 1, 2, 3, 3/8 of an inch, and then I know that I'll have plenty of room for my folds on either side of that. So because I think that, yeah, I'll have just about 1/4 inch on each side, which I think is good. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing. I did top and bottom. I'm going to do the top here. So mark my middle, and then come out 1 2 3/8 of an inch and 1 2 3/8 of an inch on that side. So now I have my lines for my signatures. So then I'm just going to mark them up from top to bottom, so I know right where those lines are going to be, because then we're going to mark our holes. Just like that. And you can see these are in the center there. So then you can either, put your pencil through your template if you have it like that, or you can just fold it in half and mark where your holes are for each one going down. And I'm going to do that on the first mark and the last mark, leaving the center mark open, and then we'll use our ruler to make those lines again so that we know right where our holes are supposed to be. So, and I'm going to mark this as the top so that I don't forget. And then we'll just put these in here, and I'll know right where to punch my holes when we get to that point here. Okay, now I'm going to grab my hole punch tool, which is my phone book here. It's nice and padded. And I'm going to grab my little paper piercer here, and just at every mark that's crossed, I'm going to punch a hole so that I know where those things are. And as I had said before, I think this is the part that I want to go up, meaning the signatures will actually be sewn onto these 3 lines. And then this will be the back, so that if anything would show at the top, it'll probably be this side, which is a little bit darker, and I like that. So now that I kind of punched those holes, I'm just going to go over them again to make sure they're big enough for me to see as I'm sewing. And then we'll be ready to punch our holes in our signature. Oh, actually, I'm going to keep this out because probably it's easier for me to do that this way. Okay, so once again, this is something that you've probably seen me do. If you've seen any of my videos, you've probably seen me do this a million times. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to line up my pages horizontally here to make sure they're all where I want them. Most of these are the same size, but like this one, if I want this in the middle, I need to be sure I move it up there a little bit. Same with this one, it's a little bit shorter. So you just want to make sure your pages are in your signature where you want them. So like this one is very small. I want that right in the middle. So hopefully 3 holes, will go through that one to hold it together. And then this one here is tall. So I think that's where I want them all. Okay. And I'm just going to use these big paper clips to hold everything in place while I punch the holes and sew the signatures. So I'm going to do this once on camera here, and then I will do the same with the other 2, just the exact same way. So I'm going to use my template now, make sure I have this right side up. So my template goes at the top, and I like to kind of hold it closed a little bit to be sure that my template is going right to the right place. And I'm gonna turn this around, sorry about that. Okay, it's because it seems to fit better on this side. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm holding this right at the top of where I want it, and then I'm just gonna use my paper piercer to once again poke those 5 holes right through my template and through the spine of my signature. Okay, and I'm going to leave these on because all the holes are punched, and this will keep everything in alignment. And I will go through the other ones and add paper clips and the holes as well, so that we'll have 3 signatures that look like this when we're done. Okay, signatures are all ready to go, and I want to get my fabric ready so that we can start sewing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece of fabric, or probably tear a piece of fabric that is going to be 8.5 inches tall, just like the signatures in the book. And then I'm going to make it about an inch wider than my middle piece here. So it's going to be about 5 inches wide. And the reason I'm doing that is because I really want the fabric to cover the spine. So I want it to go even further than this. I want it to, to be out here, because that'll give my signature some stability and make sure it, stays in securely inside the cover there. So I am just going to try to find some edges. And because I like the look of torn fabric, I'm going to tear it, but you certainly don't have to do that if you don't want to. And I think this piece is going to do just fine. So it's not really torn on the bottom. So let's see, maybe I will leave about 1/2 inch so that I can tear the top there. And then let me mark I'm going to mark my 5 inches. So let's see. And you know what, since I already have this with frayed edges off the top and bottom, maybe I don't need to do that so much with this one. So I'm gonna try to cut it or tear it just about exact to the size that I want. So and the side edges aren't going to show anyway, so I'm just kind of eyeballing 5 inches. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is going to be where I will tear this side. And then I'm going to use my template here to do the top side. And once again, I'm going to make it be pretty close to the top there. It might have even been a little bit down, a little bit, but all right. And then I'm going to fold this back up, and then I'm just going to double check to be sure that it's actually, the right size, so that if I need to cut it down or tear it down some more, yep, that's just about perfect. So you might see a little bit of the edging coming through, but this is very close to the size, the top and bottom of this. And I've got plenty of room on either side, which is good to kind of hold my signatures in. So now what I'm going to do is this is the side that I want up, and then this is the side that I want you to go in against the spine, if that makes sense. So I want this side down here, and I want this side up like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these together. And I think I'm going to use my tacky glue again for this. And I'm just going to eyeball the center of this. And before I do that, sometimes when you tear fabric, it kind of is misshapen a little bit. It's out of square, I guess is what I want to say. So I want to just try to make sure this is pretty square before I glue this down. And then what I'm going to do, since I want this side glued down, and I want to kind of just make sure I know, so I had this marked as the top, so I'm going to put it against the more frayed edge up here. So this one's a little bit cut straighter with not as much fray. This one has some fraying, so that's going to be my top since I'm getting ready to glue this down. So, and I'm just going to glue all over because I want this held down to the fabric really well here. And then we're going to repunch the holes in our fabric so that I can see them on both sides, and I know where, my needle is supposed to go through when I'm sewing. All right, that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to center it as best I can. That looks pretty close. And I'm going to make sure there's no wrinkles on this side. There was like a little fold mark in the fabric, so I wanted to be sure that was not in there. And then I'm going to just make sure I got glue everywhere. Looks like I missed this corner a little bit. Looks like I missed a bunch of corners. So I'm just going to go around and make sure I have this nice and secured before I start sewing. All right, we're back to the phone book. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back through the holes that I punched in the paper and punch them again with the fabric attached. Now, I waited a little bit, but the glue is still not dry here. So if you don't want to sticky up your pokey tool, whatever you're using to poke your holes, you may want to wait for this to dry. But I don't mind. I can always clean it off. So you want to do this so that you can see, or at least feel, because sometimes with the pattern it's hard to see where you're going to be sewing your signatures in. So I'm just going to go through and do all 15 of these holes very carefully and make sure that I have everything set up for us to start sewing in our signatures. And some of them I can see and some of them I can't see so well, but I think I can feel them all. So that is good enough for me, so that we'll be able to stitch in our signatures into this side. All right, we are ready to sew, and I am doing the 5-hole pamphlet stitch, as I had mentioned before, and I have a tutorial on how to do this, so I'm not going to go over this today. I will just kind of speed this up and let you hear some music as I sew so that you can see what I'm doing, but I will link my tutorial in the upper right-hand corner here and down below in the description so that you can have the instructions if you would like those as well. Okay, my signatures are all sewn in here, and you might have seen that I started from the back and went to the front. So I started with the last signature and went to the front signature. I don't know if I do that because I'm left-handed and I don't know, it just seems to work better for me. I'm not sure, but you can do it either way, whatever's more comfortable for you. The biggest thing for me when I'm sewing things in is to make sure I have things right side up, because I can't tell you how many times I have sewn in a signature and realized that it was upside down. So, okay, so now we're going to get ready to glue this in. Oh, and I just wanted to mention these ends. I cut them down a little bit. I think I'm going to cut them down just a little bit more. They're not going to be glued in, so I don't want to cut them totally off. I want to be sure there's some, you know, a little bit of leeway on these. But I also don't want them kind of, you know, in my way. So I'm just going to cut them down to maybe, I don't know, 1.5 inches long or something like that, just so they don't, you know, go out the edges of my fabric here. So just make those a little shorter. Okay, so now when I glue this in, I am not going to glue the center part. So my signatures will be centered there, but I'm not going to glue that center part. I'm just going to glue the flaps on either side of my signatures. So to do that, I'm going to use my Beacon 3-in-1 glue. You could use Fabri-Tac for this as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark right where I want the signature to go. So if you remember, we tried to be sure that our middle signature would go right in the middle of our spine. So I've just kind of moved this up a little bit. So obviously up and down wise, this isn't where it's going to go, but I want to figure out where it's going to go from side to side so that I can mark it. So I'm just making sure that it looks like, and I could, you know, mark my spine so that I have a center line, but I'm okay with eyeballing this. So I'm just making sure my center signature looks like it's right in the center of my spine, and that I have the same amount of fabric on either side of the signatures on the ends. And once I do that and I kind of have it where I want it, I'm just going to hold this down right where I want it there. And I'm just going to kind of mark with a pencil. I'm not going to mark real low because I don't want this pencil mark to show, but I want to do this so that I can see where to put my glue. So I did that on that side, and then I'm going to do it on this side. And this is just a general mark to make it a little bit easier to be sure that, you know, I'm putting things in the right spot. So I am going to start by taking my Fabri-Tac here, or I'm sorry, this is 3-in-1 glue. And I'm going to glue from, if I can make sure this is opened up, I'm going to glue from the pencil mark that I made just into the edge. So I'm not going to go into the crease of my spine. I'm just going to go right before that. So what's going on here? Oh, there we go. So just down here. And I want this to be a nice hold, since this is holding our signatures in. I want this to be very secure. Make sure I got lots of glue here. And then if I need to add more just to the edges, you know, I can do that too. So let me just put that aside here. Okay, so then what I'm going to do, since I know how far over it's supposed to go, I'm going to put that on here. And before I let go, I am just going to double check that I'm not too far over or too far away. So it looks like that wasn't quite centered when I put that down. So I'm going to just kind of, Fabri-Tac is pretty forgiving, so it gives me a little bit of time to make sure I have things where I want them to be. Okay, so I'm going to hold that there for just a second. I'm going to make sure I have this down low enough, which I think I do. And I think now I have the right amount of space in between. And you could glue this whole thing down if you wanted to. I'm just going to try it this way. I think I want to give myself a little bit more leeway in the, as it's folded. but you could certainly just glue the whole back of this down and then, you know, center it up and put it right where you want it. Now, before I go on, I was going to go ahead and glue the other one, but I think it makes more sense, since I'm trying not to glue the middle, to let this dry first. So I'm just going to take a couple minutes and just let that dry up so that it has a nice hold before we put on the other side. Okay, got this glued in. The first side was dry. I may just take my bone folder here and once again kind of crease a little bit here. Make sure all my wrinkles are out. And then we'll make sure that one dries a little bit before we move on as well. But I think this is coming together well. Okay, while the this backside dries a little bit, I'm going to pull out some papers that I chose to use for my end pages, and we'll start working on those. So the only thing I need to do with the book is to kind of mark where my end pages are going. So for this one, I want this picture here to kind of be in here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to find the edge of my book here. I don't want to go into the crease at all. So, and actually I'm going to, once I find the edge, I'm going to move the page maybe just about 1/8 of an inch over away from the spine, so that when I glue it down, I know for sure that I'm not going to end up with anything in the spine there. And then I'm going to give myself 1/8 of an inch on the side there. So this is how wide I want it to be. And then I will do the same thing with the height. So I'm going to probably give myself a little bit less than 1/8 of an inch for the height, just because my fabrics go all the way to the edge, so I kind of want to cover them up as much as I can, but the width is a little bit different. So I have my marks here on how wide I need to cut it. This is going to be my back side. And then now this is the same page here, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut down this side for the front part. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to line it up on the edge where I want it here. I'm going to find my crease and then come back maybe 1/4 of an inch so that I don't go into my spine there. And then I'll do the width, or I'm sorry, the height as well. Give myself just a teeny little bit. And we'll go down there. So now I know where I'm going to cut these, and then I can put this aside with my wet side open. I don't want to glue anything together, and we'll let that get good and dry there. So now I'm just going to take my cutter and we'll start cutting these off here. And first I'm going to cut the bottom. Actually, I think I can do it this way. It might be easier. So I'm cutting my front page. And then I wanted to put a little side pocket on the front page to be able to hold things. So, and I thought this picture would be fun to have, you know, as part of the pocket. So I'm going to mark this down so that I have the same height on this page. I think I got that there. No, I don't. Actually, it might be easier to do it this way. Let me cut it down first. So I think I want my the width of my pocket to be about 3 inches. 1, 2, 3. And we can always cut that down if that seems too big, but I'm going to cut that piece first. And then I think it'd be easiest just to put these together. And cut this one down. So let's see. Let me do it this way. I think I want to put both of them against my guide here. All right, so now I have this one that I'm going to use as a little side pocket there. And I think that size is okay for now. And I'm going to put a little notch in it. What size do I want? I'm going to use my bigger hole, and I'm just going to eyeball this. And then for the back, I'm going to go ahead and cut this down, and I think I'm going to I'm going to make a bottom pocket on this one. So go ahead and get this done. Okay, so this is my back piece, and I had another piece that kind of matches that I was thinking would be good for a bottom pocket here. So that's what I'm going to do with this one. I'm going to mark it just like I did the other ones. Line this up because I think I kind of want this bottom piece with the postcard and the bookbinder to be the pocket. So I'm going to mark that on the bottom where I want it, and then decide how big I want it to be. And since I think I want to, you know, I'm not going to even measure the size, I'm just going to kind of pick a size, and I think I like this little flourish there, so I'm going to choose that size, and then I'm going to cut it down here. And we'll use this smaller one. Actually, you know what? I don't think I will. I'm not going to put a notch in this one since I have that flourish right there. We'll leave that the way it is. All right, so now we have our front and back pages ready to go. I'm going to use my distress ink to distress everything, and then I'm going to sew these pockets on, and then I'm going to sew around the entire thing. I like to have sewing, so I'm going to do a zigzag stitch all the way around the outside of everything after I distress it, and we'll come right back. Okay, my end papers are all sewn together. I have a pocket here and a pocket here, perfect for just stashing, you know, little things that I might need for my planning and whatever. Maybe even some of the supplies I'll be using for that. So, and I've sewed around the edges, as you can see there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to glue these into the front and back where they go. Right on the edges here. And once again, I'm going to be using my 3-in-1 glue for this. I'm going to make sure I have good coverage. I'm going to try not to glue in my threads. I like my threads, but if they're sticking out, if I decide I don't like them at some point, I can always take them off if I want to. So I'm hoping that once I get this done, that I will feel more comfortable planning in this kind of a planner. So I haven't been planning for a long time. I haven't been doing some planning because I just wasn't happy with how it was going before. So, I mean, I enjoyed the planning part of it, but for whatever reason, I didn't enjoy the altered book part of it. So that's why we're gonna try something new. And this may not even be the end, you know, of an iteration of what I'll be doing when I'm planning. Who knows? You know, that's the other thing about doing this. I love that I can just create something new, to try something new, and then see if it works. And if it doesn't, you know, I will just move on from there. So I may need to hold these down a little bit. It seems like these ends, these thicker ends, want to pop up a little bit. So I want to make sure that they have a nice connection point there before I move on to the back, but then I'm just going to do the same with the back. Our book is all done, and I figured I'd go ahead and do one page of planning with you. So I pulled out, this is the sort of the baggie that I had all of my leftover planning things in. So I just grabbed that from my old planner, and I will definitely be using some of these pieces in my new planner. Actually, I think I might even grab this one for here, because this says September here, so I thought it'd be fun to kind of do my you know, kind of title page for September right here. Let me see if there's anything else. Well, I'm going to just put this aside for a second. And then I pulled out some other bits that I thought might be fun. I thought she could go here to cover up this wording, and I could maybe use this paper kind of as the cover up for that. So I was thinking about trying to tear it out just about the size of her. And I'm going to go a little bit bigger so that I can tear it down on all sides. We'll see how this goes. And then if I take her and put her here, this would go here. And I think that might be too much, too big. So let me just take it down a little. We'll kind of have her, yeah, I like that better. Sometimes that's what collage is all about, just kind of playing around with it until you get it where you want it. And then I pulled out this little ticket here. I thought this might be fun up here, but I do not want it to cover up my September. So I think I'm going to maybe use some of my washi tape that I actually have this in my shop. It's called Farrago, and I thought that would be kind of fun. So I printed this out on clear label paper. So it's not, well, actually, I really haven't tried to tear it, but I don't think it's going to tear too good. So I'm just going to cut myself a piece here. And I'm going to put this on the bottom. Since it's on clear sticker paper, it's kind of translucent, which I really like. Let me move that out of the way. And like I said, I don't want to cover up my September here, but that adds a nice bit of color here. And then I can put this on and put her on. Oops. And I think I'm going to like the way that looks. I may even just tear this down just a little bit more. So that it's just peeking out behind her. Yes, I like that. And then this, my postcard down here, I think I'm going to glue that on first because I'm going to add some more tape around here. And this is where I'll either put a quote or, I don't know yet, something interesting. So let me grab this. Papers like this, I usually like to use my glue stick on. So I'm just going to make sure the back is nice and covered. And I probably should have distressed that first, but that's okay. It doesn't look too bad. I'll make sure I get the other ones done. But let me go ahead and do this. Let me just cut this down a little. And use this on the side. I don't want to cover up too much of the paper because then I won't be able to write, since once again, since this is clear sticker paper, it's translucent, which is nice, but it's also hard to write on. So I'm just going to try to, actually that might be too long. this again. I'm just going to put it at the edge of the paper there so that it comes over, and I like that. And I may do another small little piece at the top there, and maybe I kind of like this little design right here. We'll cut a little bit of that off. See if I can get it away from the paper. Look at that. There we go. Now I'll put a little distress on this before I put it down, since I tore it. And I think I may even put a little on her, just to make sure she doesn't have any white edges. 2 white edges anyway. Okay, and this one I'll use this. Oop. And then for, oops, I can't remember which way I had this. I think that'll work. And then for her, I'm going to use my, this is art glitter glue. So this bottle was really getting old and wasn't working for me. So I'm going to try these cake. Oh, look at that. See, must have a little, well, you know what? I think I have a pin here. I think I have a little blockage in here or something. I thought these covers worked pretty good, but maybe they don't. I think I got it. All right, let's try again. No, I didn't get it. You know what's going to happen, right? I'm going to squeeze it, and then I'm going to, it's going to blow up all over the place. That may be it. Let's see. Yes, that was it. I've been using these a little while now, not too long, and I haven't had a problem until today, so lucky you got to see it. There we go. I think I put a little too much glue on there, but luckily this dries nice and clear. And I think this is a perfect start to my planner. So I'll probably have some sort of inspirational quote down here. And if you have an inspirational quote that you like, I would love to hear them. You can put it down below in the comments for me. Maybe I'll use that in my September title page here. And then when I go on, I'm going to probably go through some of these papers. And like for, you know, my to-dos and my lists that I need to have, I'm going to start using some of these. These are from some of my Mad Plan kits that I have. So I'll probably be going through some of them to see what I have that can fit in here. And that might be a good one since we're getting into kind of the fall here, September, October, Halloween-y coming. So this is the kind of thing that I'm probably going to do. I'll put these on here, and that's how I'm going to go through it. But I really like this format, I think, a lot better than the altered book. But we'll see how it goes. And I also have some of these left over from some of my Mad Plans too. So they won't fit on every page, but they might fit on some of the pages. So I could have my week here, and then I could have my lists and things on these other pages. So we're going to give this a try and see if this works in this new planner. So I'd love to know if you are a planner, and if you're kind of a bullet journal planner, or if you like, you know, kind of a planner that's already set out for you, or if you do something else. I would love to hear what you do. So leave me a comment down below and let me know. But thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed watching this video of me turning this altered book into a junk journal planner. And I will see you in the next video, friends. Take care.